disability awareness plan on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And I am also a Running My Bike ambassador with many of my back training as well. And I have becoming a professional advocate. So when I was a junior in high school, everyone was wanting to develop their own plans for what they wanted to do after high school. And I knew that a university and a work program wasn't for me because I felt like I had more opportunity to live, and plus my ACT score was terrible. I'm not gonna lie, it was awful. So my advisor and my state manager was like, why don't you retake it and get into a university? And I was like, no, thank you, I don't want to do that. Next time, please. So the two options that they presented me with, like I said, was the work program and university, and I knew that was not for me. So, but I also knew that my high school had an internship program, which basically meant that if you were a junior or senior, you could go work at your employer for part of a day outside of your classroom and still get credit for doing so. So I was like, why can't I do that with my YouTube channel? Although I would not be going to a place of employment, I could still hang out in the classroom or a library or go home and work on my YouTube channel. So that's what I did. That's how that's what I did. I walked my way down to my advisor's office and nicely demanded that he put up my YouTube channel. And he didn't know why I was directing him to my YouTube channel. And I said, well, I happen to know you have that internship program, and I want to make my YouTube channel my internship program. He said, well, I don't know, we've never had anyone do that. So you're gonna have to fill out the paperwork and write your own curriculum. That's exactly what I did with the help of running my life. So now I'd like to hear from of you what your vision for a good life or what your vision for a bad life is.
I'll start. And I'm loud enough, I don't need a microphone. Part of my vision is to travel with my son as many different places as we can go.
Nice. Anyone else?
Having a career that fills me, that's reciprocal, that I'm enjoying my work, but also the people I work with, I'm supporting them and they're supporting me.
Definitely. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Supporting my children to be happy.
Awesome. Someone else? Okay, I'm gonna move the side. So, moving on to where I am now and how I used to rest for me. So after I completed my internship program at my high school, I kind of used my life to rest for me to say, okay, what do I have and where do I need to go? So some of the things that I had were marketing and branding skills. I knew how to develop a website. I knew how to work the camera and I knew how to advocate for myself. But some of the things that I wanted to do was complete the ambassador training so that I can help others with disability and do my back training. I also wanted to continue living in my mother-in-law's seat at home. I have no desire to live in a facility and still don't to this day. So I knew I wanted to maintain a healthy lifestyle and continue to run my YouTube channel. But I also knew I wanted to hire external support so I wouldn't have to rely on my family 24/7. Although that was one of the things that was holding me back too, because I don't want a random stranger in my house taking therapy, and so that was one of the things that was holding me back. So that's how I use the time point. And now I'm going to talk about how I use the support squad. For the interest of time, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically what I did was I used the support squad, and I thought about where am I involved, what am I involved in, what community, who do I know in my community, and what technical support do I have to help me run my YouTube channel and my voices. And as you can tell, there are many different ways I can find support in my daily life and for my career. So where am I today and where am I now? And my website is up there as well, so you can write that down. But after everything that I went through, I developed a YouTube channel that not only talks about my life with cerebral palsy, but I also realized there wasn't much of a place for other disabled people to tell their story. So I also interview people with various disabilities or with various roles in the disability community. So next slide, please. So where am I today? So I can be found on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And also my profile picture, so you know it's me when you check on my profile. Next slide, please. So I have recently been highlighted in local publications. I was also a featured influencer at a disability pride festival in St. Louis, and I recently got over 1,000 followers on YouTube and Instagram. Next slide, please. So, and I'm also all the things that you see for you. Next slide, please. So, not only that, but I am the 2023 Podcast Fellow, which is a fellowship that I was awarded to work on a year-long advocacy project. So next time, please. So what does my project do? So I developed, or am developing, a training for individuals with disabilities and their supporters to help become a better leader in the advocacy movement, because I realize there is a lot of training for professionals in our field, but not enough for advocates in our field. So I developed a course that helps them learn how to be a leader, and you can find that handout in the app. I don't think it's up yet, but when they upload go to the hospital be now. Next time, please. So, any questions? Well, I know none of I will do combine do it if that what we want to do.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So any questions for either of us would be great.
Yeah.
What's your number one piece of advice to kids on how to get started and what they want to do with their life? Just like you did, they don't want to go into those traditional jobs that are set for them. What is your number one piece of advice for kids to figure out their own plan besides life course tools?
So my number one piece of advice is I had a member in high school who tried to put me into various classes with people with disabilities, and while that's wonderful, I didn't want that to be my whole high school career. So I would say, even though the adults around you know or they know what you're gonna like, if you think you can figure out a way to hop around that, then do it and say, I think there's a way around it. Who do I need to talk to? Send me an email, a room number, whatever you need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there something you would have wanted to have, like a resource or a conversation you would have wanted to have earlier that you think would have been helpful? And how old, or like about what period of your life would that be?
I would like to see running the high school in the high school IEP because they didn't really talk about any other high school opportunities besides the work program, the military, and a university. And I think if they had this program in high school, running the high school, but if they had running the high school in high school, I would hope it helped the state members get to the bottom of their person's need, want, and desire, and maybe even lead to a hobby that could be a career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You talked about how you don't want random strangers working with you, and last night we heard from the one mother from PA Family Network how when she interviews staff, she expects them to ask questions of her, her son. She gives them the star, the trajectory, and says, so what do you like, how do you like bowling or whatever? How do you determine who you want working with you?
So right now I rely on some of my friends that I went to high school with or that I know from adulthood, but to be honest with you, I haven't really had the opportunity to look for new passion opportunities yet, but when I do, one of my main criteria will probably be they have to be around my age. That way I know they know like to do what I like to do, and plus, like as you can see, I have opening in the physical disability. So like if you're older, you might have trouble asking me, helping me do my daily tasks.
I have a question,
Yeah.
for Jenna, right?
Oh, sure.
Sorry. So you said that you started working with families in early childhood. What do you find that parents have even given any thought whatsoever to the future?
That's a really good question. It varies. It varies. That was one of the questions that we asked about when we were surveying folks. We did find, so when we asked parents and caregivers, we asked about, I think we selected like 12 kind of typical adult life experiences that we asked them about, like, have you thought about this? Do you envision this as part of your child's life? And we had things in there like living independently, being in a romantic relationship, having a job, having friends, staying involved with family, living with family, all of those different kinds of things. And we did find that parents responded pretty highly with some of those things, particularly around things like where might your child live, what might they do. But then there were some other areas, like relationships was an area that we saw that parents hadn't really thought a lot about. What are my child's adult relationships gonna look like? How are they gonna carry friendships with them through their life? Are they maybe going to date, fall in love, get married? Those were things that they hadn't thought about as much. And then we asked educators if they knew for their students about those kinds of goals and visions. And it was sort of the flip of the educators knowing more about resources and supports. The families had more conversations internally that they hadn't conveyed to educators. And in some places there was kind of a big disconnect between what educators sort of thought or presumed that families and students were thinking about versus what they were thinking about themselves. So I think that also just kind of highlighted that this is where we got to just start talking earlier, and when these kids are just little, you keep those doors open and the possibilities open, because we don't think about these things unintentionally. Doors just start closing when kids move through school, and we don't want to unintentionally do that. We want to keep all those options open, I think, for those kiddos. So yeah, it did, there was a lot of variance, but I mentioned Joy Nichols, who is the integrated preschool teacher who uses the framework, and she actually has all of her kiddos. She has 50% students with disabilities, 50% typical students. She has all of the kids that she works with use these types of tools, and so that it just becomes a more natural process to start talking about. And it's really exciting when kids are little, because really the world's your oyster when you're 5 or 6, right?
Nobody usually asks you what you think.
Yeah. And those little ones, they have big thoughts and opinions. Yeah.
Another question.
So you had talked about, I think you surveyed families and teachers on like 12 domains around adult life experiences, like you just mentioned. Was choice making one of them? And decision making, not necessarily guardianship or alternatives to guardianship, but are families thinking that early about supporting choices in adulthood?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how we worded that particular question. I'd have to look back at the survey, but we were trying to get at that with some of the questions of sort of, do they feel like their kids are having opportunities, or that they're sort of moving forward with this mindset of them being informed decision makers and having that kind of self-determination and autonomy. And that's why we wanted to make sure we were providing resources like I'm Determined to include that as part of the conversation.
When you had partnered or done the survey with your school district, did you take like a pilot school, or did you have the survey go to the whole district to kind of get a larger demographic of kind of like across the board, like for the whole school district? Is it something they're interested in implementing? And did I miss it? Are they now implementing the tools? Are you to that point yet?
Yeah, so I answer your question in tears. So the districts that we partnered with did generally roll it out across districts. So the 2 big districts, Toledo and Dublin, they're like big city school districts. And then SST 14, it went out to several different districts. And we've been trying to maintain those connections. Some of our partners have had more capacity to engage, and so they're getting deeper into the resources and rolling out implementation. Others are still just gonna be honest, they're really struggling. So part of what we're trying to do, we've done this throughout the project, but increasingly as we move forward, we just keep tying this to the practices that educators already need to do, because that's where we're kind of really finding the roadblock. It's not so much with families, it's just educators have so much on their plates already, but we tie this to the IEP, we tie this to transition planning, and like I said, we also highlight that you can use this with all of your students too. You could use some of these tools to meet other curriculum requirements too. Have each child give a presentation about their trajectory and their goal. This can be part of your language arts class, for instance. So we're trying to hand out like that kind of really practical information so that people don't feel like it's something extra. It's just a different way of doing what they're already doing that's probably going to lead to much better outcomes for folks.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Any additional questions?
I have a question for Eric. When you were, kind of speaking of choices, that's always on my mind. When you were talking either with your school educators or team or whoever it was that was giving you your, options of what they thought would happen, and you were pretty much saying, that's not what I want. Was everyone open with it? Or I mean, were they kind of being like, no, we still need to go this route? Because I mean, from my point of view and my work that I've done for years, it always seemed like when I would work with somebody, to get that voice out, say, no, it's not what I want, you were just met with so much, still trying to say, no, this is where you need to go. So I mean, were they open about, like, listening to what you were wanting to do, like, with just everything that you're involved in? Or were they still trying to push you into, what they thought? Yeah.
By the time this came around, they were pretty much used to me saying what I wanted. And so at first I had a plan and could back up my idea with a plan and get the help that I need to do it. They were okay with it. Now, if I didn't have a plan and didn't know how to get the help that I needed to get to it, I would probably like to think they wouldn't be asked open.
Okay. Thank you.
I love that phrase that you used earlier, nicely demanded. I'm gonna incorporate that into my vocabulary. I just like that comes around, like, we can be polite and still be very assertive, so. Just a good reminder. We've got just a few more minutes if anybody else has any other questions.
I really liked what Anna said about I had a plan and I could present it. That charting the life course or whatever gave you the opportunity to present your ideas and to give you a voice.
Right.
I've heard that from so many people in families too, and I've experienced that myself too. Where, yeah, I mean, I think, most of us who use Trying Life Course a lot, it's tough because I do just kind of use it organically and don't always come back to the tools, but that is, I think, one of the great parts about the tools too, is they can give people that confidence to come back to when you're, because I think as you mentioned, on the panel earlier too, just being in a room with 20 support people all around you with all their competing messages that they're trying to get across. I don't know, there's just something about being like, yeah, well, I brought my papers too. And we're gonna talk about my papers too. Sarah, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, you'd mentioned there's different trainings that you guys run. Is it you guys that run it, or is it one of those other connected for supports like the Family Resource Network and the
Yeah,
ones that
so
you mentioned?
we're a big old happy family, and in Ohio, for the most part, at least around Charting the Life Course, it's really like the framework that brings us all together. So we've been really lucky. I've been able to reach out to a couple of other ambassadors to get their voices in the room. Celia Schlomer, who is presenting in another room right now, has been a huge part of this project, and we're also looking at pulling in some other education partners too. So yeah, some of the, in terms of just like funding, some of the sessions have been under the contract that we have with DODD, but then when we've partnered up with other folks, some of what we're doing ties into what they're doing. So maybe that's, now that you asked that question too, I guess if I were gonna share other lessons learned from engaging in this project, is that everybody's been very generous with their time, and it hasn't really become a big thing in terms of ownership or funding, you know, and it's not always easy to do that in our worlds. I know that's not why we do the work, but it really is how we do the work a lot of times. So that's been really encouraging to me, and I hope that we're able to continue that as we move forward too, to just be able to fold in more folks who want to be involved in whatever way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's